Matthew Knies continues to grow right before our eyes as the Maple Leafs need more from their bottom six. Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Leafs. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writers Terry Koshan and Lance Hornby. And guys, I know you've written a lot about Matthew Knies. We've talked a lot about Matthew Knies so far this season, but right now he is definitely the talk of the town, coming off that hat trick performance against the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team that he just continues to terrorize. And I guess that is a positive if the Maple Leafs once again meet the Lightning at some point come the playoffs. But we'll start with you, Lance. Matthew Knies has been such a great positive story for this team this year. And as I mentioned, he just continues to evolve as a player, becoming now seemingly one of the premier power forwards in the league. Thinking back to when you first saw him as a Maple Leaf to where he is now, what do you make of the progress that he has shown?
Well, not only can this guy score, he, as you alluded to, he throws his body around, and that's always been his game. You see the way he's driven the net, certainly on some of his goals, and as a lot of teammates noticed last night, I mean, put himself in position to be right on the lip of the crease to knock goals in. And interesting point, of course, is Austin Matthews is not a small man. His centerman, and everyone knows what Mitch Marner can do. But here's a guy who goes where angels fear to tread a lot of times, right into the thick of things. Isn't afraid to get to get knocked around. Certainly isn't afraid to rough it up. The hat trick he got last night, for you trivia fans out there, is the last one since 2009 where a Leaf got a hat trick and a roughing penalty. So when you can do it all like that, it's quite the feat, and quite a find for second rounder from a year when the Leafs barely had any picks, and all other NHL teams seem to find a guy like this. Toronto seemed to have, I won't say stumbled upon, because certainly other teams were interested in him as well. But what a take for this guy, and the future is just starting for this young man.
Yeah, he really has come along. And, one of the worst things that you can have if you're a big NHL player who has the size and the strength and everything else is to be convinced by a coaching staff that you can do physical things. And this is the exact opposite with Matthew Knies. We saw it really when he came up to join the Leafs at the end of the season a couple of years ago, and then got going there in the playoffs before he really hit the ground running last season. Taking 57th overall in 21, no one taken above him in that draft has more points than him. I think as of today, he's ninth in points from the people taken in 2021. So that tells you something. But, power forward through and through, on the cusp of 30 goals here. Like Lance says, there is no physical impediment to him or fear. He just loves to get involved that way. And, at his age, he's just discovering this now, and the size and everything else and how it can be used effectively. There has to be so much optimism around him. The more he does this, of course, we're going to see what this next contract is like. Already speculation of offer sheets and that sort of thing. But if I'm in Leafs Nation, I wouldn't be worrying about that too much right now. I'd be more concerned and happy about the idea of what he can bring in the playoffs. And he's tailor-made for what Craig Berube wants on that left side, that power, and on the forecheck. And, it dovetails nicely with what Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner do. But, I just think, too, that what he said the other night, guys, just a real quick point, he used the word soft. And as we know, Lance, this isn't a Maple Leafs core that likes to come out and be too self-critical. We haven't seen it much in past playoff years, but for him to come out and use that word and then back it up a night later, I thought spoke volumes. So good on him. Good on him on getting his second NHL career hat trick. And, I guess the only downside to all this is that the Leafs probably won't face the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. And we know that this kid owns them for whatever reason.
Yeah. The second year, it's a lot of moxie for a second-year player, certainly. And he's well-liked in the media, well-liked by his teammates, cooperative with the media in that sense. So that's always a plus in his favor, too.
I was going to say the confidence to use that word, and then Lance alluded to earlier, that move he made in overtime to set up Riley. That takes a lot of what.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, we don't see too many players of his age making moves like that for sure in a big spot against a potential playoff opponent. So the top six is clearly not an issue for this team right now, Terry. They're getting a ton of production out of the likes of John Tavares, William Nylander, Matthew Knies, we just touched on, of course, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner. But this bottom six continues to be a bit of an issue here as far as offensive output. We know Nick Robertson a couple of games ago had a pair of goals, of course, but here in these games against the likes of the Panthers and the Lightning, it has not exactly been an area where the Maple Leafs have been able to lean on, of course. We know Max Pacioretty could factor into this at some point. Scott Lawton, of course, a big trade deadline acquisition, hasn't done much offensively. How concerned are you about the bottom six that Craig Berube is currently throwing out there?
Well, I'm not really concerned about it because this is what it is. You can't look at it and say, what more can they get out of them? Because you're not going to get much more out of them. This is what this group six is. I think if you add up the goals right now, and I'm not including Bobby McMahon in this because, I think he belongs in that second line. They're in the 45 range, 6 to 50 range combined. So it's not terrible. And, I'm including David Kemp in there, and he hasn't been playing for a bit, but I don't know what Pacioretty's going to bring, if anything, once the playoffs get going. If the Leafs, they had a good win last night. They had won a bunch going into the game in Florida. If they win, say, 3 of their last 4 now, are you disrupting that bottom 6? I don't know about that with Pacioretty. Maybe he gets in later in the first round, but this is what it is. So, you lean on your top guys because that's what they're there to do. And you want a little bit more out of your bottom guys for sure. And one guy I would point to, Rob, like you mentioned, is Scott Lawton, has been awfully quiet score sheet wise since he was acquired from the Flyers. And, you look at Lawton and go, okay, well, you can do this, that, and the other thing, allegedly. Well, true, but you have to contribute offensively a bit too. I mean, he'd scored a bit for the Flyers in his career. So, yeah, we'll see where this goes. And, if everybody's healthy, does Nick Robertson has 14 goals this year even factor into the playoffs for game 1? We don't know. We'll have to see. But if you're looking at the bottom 6 right now and going, boy, we need to get more out of these guys, I wouldn't be expecting much more. This is what they are.
Well, offensively, certainly, how many chances really has Scott Lawton had to get going? And, we've been watching Pontus Holmberg sort of do everything right for about 199 feet of the ice and then mess around in that around the blue paint. He just seems to be cursed there. So, you know what? I certainly like the makeup of some of those guys down there. I know Kampf is big on faceoffs, and I think we all like what Steven Lorentz brings as far as an edge and really part of the good Leafs forecheck. But Nick Robertson was pretty honest with us the other day. I mean, if he's going to stay in the lineup, it's to add a physical element, and he admits that's not his game. He's going to bounce off most people, but as he says, he's got to get a piece of people. He's got to get in their face and just perform that bottom 6 role in addition to burying some of his chances. I guess the wild card is Pacioretty. I can't see the Leafs sitting him as long as they have and suddenly putting him in there in game 1. I think that might be an impact thing where, let's say, they start a series and maybe fall behind, or maybe you're lacking something physically, and then they let this guy go and see what he could do. But you know what? On the flip side, you might see both the Leafs, top lines kind of get canceled out by the other lines and the other team, and you really need these guys to score. So it could be that there's been a lot of history of third and fourth line guys who suddenly do it in playoffs, and the way the Leafs have played all year long, emphasizing that forecheck. This is certainly the group that could do it. We haven't seen it to date, but you get tired of waiting, and it's certainly in the coming series, you're going to need these bottom 6 guys to pop a goal or two.
I would just add to that, like, I think people would feel a little bit better for it if, like Lance is saying, you saw a little bit more consistent production from them this season, but it's not consistent. So we'll see.
Yep, very well said. We will definitely see. Still a few games left to go here in the regular season. A lot to be decided in this Atlantic Division. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Lance Hornby and Terry Koshan, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.